Today we're going to be talking about the 2006 straight-to-video sci-fi film Battlespace. If you haven't heard of it, apparently a lot of people haven't either. You want to know how underground this movie is? I couldn't even find a single trailer for it. I don't even think IMDb had a trailer for it. I went on YouTube trying to see if this was a real movie, and sure enough, I did find the full film on YouTube, but I didn't find a trailer for it, so I thought that was kind of surprising. Imagine if someone tried making a science fiction film, but instead of following your typical sci-fi action movie tropes, they instead made a movie that was trying to be different and avant-garde and trying new things, all the while throwing in some really crappy 2006 After Effects. So I'm going to break it down like this. Battlespace is an hour and 25-minute movie, and it feels like the first 50 minutes, first hour of it, feels like it's one movie, and then the last 20-25 minutes feels like it's a completely different movie. Basically, the first 50 minutes, the first hour of it, is basically just a blonde woman who's supposed to be this expert space marine getting stuck on a deserted planet that apparently has weapons of mass destruction that are going to destroy her home planet. And she landed on this planet because she was sent there to try and stop this. All the while, there is this person who was a part of her Marine Corps or her fleet or whatever that was a traitor to their cause. And so now, as she goes out to try and find out where this city that has these weapons are at on this planet, you have this guy chasing after her, trying to kill her. Mixed between all of this are these set pieces where you have it that she starts to become dehydrated, and so she ends up coming across a big body of water, and she climbs down some kind of rock formation, slips, and then ends up in the water through the power of really bad editing. There's also several points in the movie where they try to do these slow motion fight scenes, but it just feels like it was the director not really knowing how to choreograph a fight scene or hiring someone who could help choreograph a fight scene. So what he did was he just told it. So what they did instead was just told the actors, okay, yeah, just do it very slowly, and then we can speed it up in post and add sound effects to make it look somewhat realistic. And the end result is this. Based on the first 5 minutes of the movie, I was really excited for this to just be some really cheesy, crappy, straight-to-video sci-fi movie, because you have, all the tropes that you'd expect from a typical Sci-Fi Channel original, asylum-grade sci-fi action film, complete with really bad green screen work, and you have scenes where you have really stilted acting. Like, for example, you have this scene where it's showing them in their marine fleet and them taking out rival ships or enemy ships, whatever, and you have it that she's trying to blast them down and some of her own men end up getting hit. And this actress just has the most stilted reactions to any of this. Your own men are being wiped out, their ships are blowing up, and she just goes, "Oh no. Damn it." No emotion whatsoever.
Number 2. Damn it.
Another problem with the first hour of the movie, there's almost no dialogue. And you know what, maybe certain movies can get away with that. There's movies like Ringo Starr's Caveman and a bunch of these kind of movies where they have little to no dialogue, and most of the time it's an artistic decision, and you know what, if the movie is good, you can look past that. Most of the dialogue that comes from the first hour comes from either the computer system that this lady has that she keeps interacting with every so often to explain where she is or where the city is located or how much time she has left, that kind of thing. Or you have narration from this woman's daughter as she's explaining all of this and giving very vague backstory on both stuff within their world, like certain sectors of humanity at this point and how humanity left Earth and how humanity is now divided into different tribes, basically, and different types of technology and different character relations. Most of this kind of stuff typically you want to do in a show don't tell format. You know, that's the general rule of storytelling, that you don't just blatantly tell the audience this stuff, you try to show it to them naturally. But the problem is this movie feels like it was a fan fiction that was then expanded into a movie, and the writer just kind of assumed that people would know what they were talking about. Like when they just list off all these different types of science fiction metals and weapons and vapors and gases and stuff, it's like, we don't know what that is. We're not familiar with this world.
Mother experienced the occasional hallucination during the mind game. But on this world, hallucinations came without precedence. I think she surmised that something in the planet's biosphere was causing her mental contusions. Being a world of 3 suns and 4 moons, it was prone to massive weather variations. The average day could last anywhere between 2 and 40 hours. Originally, the Construct 3 world was established as a medical research colony. They were responsible for deactivating the aging gene in humanity, extending human life past the 120-year marker. The Constructs had once fought to destroy all forms of religion. In latter years, they had embraced proto-religious concepts to help propagate their new species. It was hinted amongst the academia that the Watchers were the ones who seeded mankind's genetics in the past. Anomalies in the genetic code of humanity indicated somebody had interfered with our evolution. The Constructs would tap huge reserves of power from the ether of the planet's biosphere. Energy nodes littered K3 at regular intervals. This bioelectric power source alluded to the fact that the planet was a living entity. In school, I was taught that the ancient Earth was a living world like this. It was said that following its destruction, the bioelectric energy waves would echo through the quadrant for centuries. K3 was founded as a medical colony, originally because the biosphere promoted a natural form of healing within the human body. This uniqueness was considered lost during the 2130 religion war. Mother was at odds with this strange world, but the world was responding with kindness.
Then you have narration that just completely contradicts itself. You have Usul, or whatever the guy's name is, the traitor guy, who there are 3 times in the movie where the main woman could easily just kill him right then and there, but I guess to show that she's either really incompetent with her weapons or show that she's supposed to be a good person, that doesn't kill right away. Even though she was told by her higher-ups or her computer system or whatever that he's dangerous, he'll try to kill you before you kill him, that kind of thing. Like one time, it's that her weapon gets jammed, and that's a little bit later, so it's like, okay, understandable. But the first time, she doesn't even tie him up. Like, she knocks him out and then just leaves him there, and they put some ketchup on his forehead to simulate that he has, like, blood. But the narration keeps saying that this guy loves her with all his heart and that he'll do anything for her and that he wants to protect her and all that kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, he loves her so much. That's why he's on the run to try and kill her every chance he gets.
Many times, Usul had whispered thoughts of improving humanity. Mother took this as intellectual overtures of early romance. Those around Usul suspected otherwise, but Mother would always defend him.
I don't know what the budget for this movie was. I'm assuming it was very low. I can only assume that because of the special effects. But there are several points in the movie where it flip-flops between them using green screen or them trying to crop certain special effects into the location that they're filming at. Most of the on-screen stuff is either really low-quality sets for, like, Space Marine ships and stuff like that. Most of the time it's green screen, but there is like 1 or 2 times where they try to like throw a set together to make it look like they're in a hollow deck or something like that. I'm just running around in a desert, like an outback or some kind of barren desert area that they were close to. And most of that stuff is okay, but the thing is, most of those scenes are just kind of boring. Like I said, long stretches of no dialogue, really bad fight scenes, you know, ham-fisted narration to try and like pad out the dead silence. Here's another problem with everything being exposition and not showing anything properly. I guess at this point in the future, all of humanity are now half robots. Everyone's a cyborg, I guess. The only point of this that actually makes somewhat sense is near the end of the first hour. I guess by like near the end of the second act of the movie. They basically established that the ones who are wanting to launch these weapons of mass destruction,
Their true obsession was with re-engineering humans to create a new species, Homo technis. As a race, they would stop at nothing to achieve their goal.
I was reading the little auto-generated subtitles on YouTube. I misread it and thought it said Hollowed Tempest. Oh shit, the Tempest boys from Hololive are in this movie? Man, that's gonna make it so much better. It's basically a sector of humanity who have rejected humanity and embraced becoming fully emotionless robots, and they want to convert the entire galaxy so that no ounce of humanity is left. It's pretty much like a crappy version of the Borg from Star Trek.
The future of humanity is us. Purge yourself of the beast within. We are humanity's last hope. Pureness in thought is pureness in being. Our time to create a superior race is at hand. Why not submit to voluntary biotech upgrades?
They want full conquest of the galaxy, and they want no ounce of organic, emotional, carbon-based life left. And it's like, hey, that's a really interesting idea. It's just that this movie has such a limited budget that they didn't get to do much with it, aside from the end of the second act. So the traitor guy runs off several times. He tries to kill her but fails, or he thinks he kills her and gets away. After the scene where she lands in the water and there's a very brief stint where you think she's about to get attacked by some sea creature, but then she gets out of the water. Yeah, we didn't want too much to happen there, I guess. She ends up at the Homo Tempest base. We see a little bit of like what they're doing. They're trying to program everyone to be against organic life. And so she ends up getting into a couple of squabbles with the people at this base. They end up launching the weapons up so that they're going to blow up her planet, but then she hijacks one of their ships, so she basically sacrifices herself to try and stop it, but it's too little too late. They end up destroying the planet anyway. It was at this point I was like, is the movie almost over? But then I checked the time. There's still like 20-25 minutes left, so it's like, oh shit, okay, well what could they possibly have to do now? And here's where the movie shifts gears and it feels like it becomes a completely different movie. Then get an explanation for what her life was like in the past when she lived on Earth and before she became a space marine. It's like I said earlier, I feel like the movie was trying to do this so that it was different and avant-garde and that, oh, we didn't start with this key bit of information like most movies would. No, you have to really wait till you get the critical information of this person's backstory this late into the movie before you can actually figure it out. Then finally get some proper explanation for this woman's life. Because all throughout the movie, they kept showing these flashbacks to like ancient architecture, like the Statue of David and stuff like that. And so we finally get an explanation for that. When she lived on Earth, way, way back in the past, she was an architect. She met a man, they fell in love. It implied that a bunch of humans got addicted to this thing called mind games, which are basically forms of technology that they're basically supposed to be a metaphor for drugs, because it's like technology that alters your brain and puts in false memories and stuff like that, and people got addicted to them, and I guess that's what started Homo Tempest. That's what made people want to reject humanity and just merge with technology. She didn't fall victim to it. She still had enough humanity left in her. They imply that she purged one of her memories once humans started merging with technology. One of the memories that she purged was that her husband cheated on her. I also love how one of the false memories that they show from these mind games is like this intentionally crappy commercial for a video game where you have a guy on a green screen in a suit talking about like, hey, if you've ever wanted to play a big-breasted, scantily clad princess warrior, well, here it is. It's Big-Breasted Princess Warrior 8 or something like that. And it was so goofy and over the top, and the green screen was so bad, I just kept thinking, wow, this looks like a rejected Adult Swim skit.
You are the mighty warrior Princess Azura, who must do battle against your evil stepsister Cheyenne. Infinity's Fantasy Dream 8. Can you survive the fiery battle against her dark angels? Infinity's Fantasy Dream 8.
Here's what I mean when I say that the third act feels like it becomes a completely different movie. We're no longer focusing on the blonde woman, who we've been focusing on throughout the entire film. We're focusing on the narrator, like I said, her daughter, and her daughter has been on this space station for over 1 billion trillion years, basically. And she was trying to master time travel, but she never succeeded at it. And then out of the blue come these two guys, and at first they say that they need help, they need resources, they need to get out of some ion storm or something like that. But then they try robbing her for her food and for her technology, because apparently the galaxy is about to implode in on itself. But then we get some more awesome fight choreography.
Never mess with a 33rd century girl.
Damn it!
You know, it's really hard to tell which has worse fight choreography, this or the Baby Geniuses movies. It's kind of hard to tell. After she knocks these two guys out, she talks to her space computer, who is kind of a mixture of like HAL 9000 and Jarvis from Iron Man. She talks to him for a little bit about like what they could possibly do, if there's any way to prolong the inevitable. But then these creatures that are like these glowing space jellyfish.
In a billion years, I'll be back here again talking to you about the same thing.
Perhaps. Or perhaps your knowledge added to ours will survive the restart of the universe.
Which is another thing that they established earlier in the movie, that Watchers are this like spiritual group of like former human life forms that eventually transcended into other beings. Because according to the narration from earlier in the movie, when it felt like it was completely inappropriate to have any mention of this stuff, other than just to set it up for later, they mentioned that there was some war between the religions at some point, and the Watchers were ones that held on to faith, whereas other ones rejected faith. The only reason that it was mentioned at the point in the movie that it was just to set up these creatures showing up later. By the way, the fact that they're called the Watchers and the fact that they look like these weird jellyfish creatures, it was reminding me of The Host, when you had the Wanderer, and the way that they looked in that movie kind of looked like these weird space jellyfish creatures. That's not a good thing when you're reminding me of The Host. They come to her and say that if she were to embrace the inevitable, that eventually she could just store her memories in a USB file like her mother did. And, you know, hopefully when the next Big Bang happens and humanity resets, because apparently that's what's going to happen, these creatures can see into the future and know that that's about to happen. They basically tell her that if she backs up her memories like her mother did, then she can get her memories back once the next Big Bang happens. So they leave, they say the choice is up to her, she talks about it with her computer some more. They hop into a spaceship and fly right on into the imploding galaxy, and we then get the next Big Bang, and that's it.
I leave this memory capsule as a testament to my mother and all of humanity who live great lives. It is my hope that these memories will survive the restart of the universe.
Aside from some of the really obvious things that make this movie bad, like pacing issues, the fact that some things are just explained and not shown, the fact that most of the narration feels like it's just an exposition dump, really bad fight choreography, really bad green screen effects, really bad CG, cheap After Effects, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that really annoyed me about this movie is the fact that it just kept reminding me of other movies that I had to sit through for Blockbusters show. Typically when I see bad movies, they remind me of better ones, but this movie was reminding me of other movies that I actually didn't like. I mentioned The Host, but the whole plot point about humanity leaving Earth and hopping on rockets and trying to get off the planet, that was reminding me of another crappy science fiction movie, After Earth. Very slow, boring pacing and the bad effects, and the non-stop exposition was also reminding me of After Last Season, because that movie was just so slow and boring. And in that movie's defense, that movie at least sparked an interesting conversation. You know, people still to this day debate what After Last Season was supposed to be. If it was meant to be a real movie that failed, or if it was supposed to be like some weird money-making scam, or if it was supposed to be bad on purpose. There's a huge debate surrounding After Last Season, so at least that movie has that going for it. The one movie it kept reminding me of the most was Time Machine I Found at a Yard Sale, because it's, again, a cheap science fiction movie with really low budget effects, very boring pacing, and almost all of it takes place on green screen. Though, if I can be fair to this movie, I will say that some of the green screen effects, while not very good, are still better than the MS Paint backgrounds that movie had. As much as I'm railing on this movie, I will say this. The one thing that made me kind of like it, just a little bit, was the behind-the-scenes footage that I found on YouTube, because it was very clear from watching that behind-the-scenes footage that the people who made this actually did want to make it, and that's something that even the worst movies, I can at least give them some props for. Like, if the people who wanted to make it really wanted to make it, like it was a passion project of theirs, I'll give them kudos, and I'll do the same for this. It's like, you know what? These people went out and made a movie because they wanted to make one. There are a lot of movies that are just being churned out just to make a quick buck. I can at least appreciate the fact that these people went ahead and did something that they wanted to do on their own volition, on their own time, and on their own money. I can give them some credit for that. Compared to some other directors who've just lashed out at people who criticize their movies, you know, the woman that made Swiped, or Derek Savage after the whole Cool Cat debacle, I can at least give the people who made Battlespace some credit. At least it was trying to do something. I don't think it succeeded, but at least it tried. So, just on that merits, Battlespace, unless you can sit through really boring movies, like if you have an hour and 25 minutes to kill and you've got the patience of a saint, then pick your poison. Decide whether or not you want to see it. Because it is on YouTube, it's free, so if you want to see it, it's always there. If you want to give it a shot, be my guest. But if you say that you couldn't make through the first 5 minutes because it was too boring, I also can't blame you there. So tune in next time to the Blockbuster Show. I will be doing my first anime review, and we're going to be talking about the internet classic that is Pop Team Epic. But until then, guys, I'm Adam Sykes of the Blockbuster Show, and we will see you guys in the next video. Wait, before I go, one more quick thing. I found out that one of the studios that put this movie out was Maverick Entertainment, and I did take a quick dig through some of their other movies, and they just have a bunch of classics under their belt, like Reverend I'm Available.
Please help me, Lord, I'm lonely.
I just want to let you know, Reverend, that I am available.
And I feel it is only right that I make myself available to you.
I'm available almost any time.
If I can find that movie, I would totally love to do a video on that, or at least force one of the other guys on this channel to talk about it, because that looks great.